It's a new day, a new year, 2024. Da-da-da-da-da. Play ball. Oh, man, this is great. Luke and I, first of all, is the name of the show / podcast. Everything available at foxphlgambler.com. Luke Arcaini, all things Phillies and Major League Baseball for us on The Gambler. A lot to discuss. Our first episode in quite some time. Ready to dust ourselves off and get back after it for a fun season ahead as far as Phillies baseball is concerned. As always, I am Sean Brace. And Luke, we got some fresh new odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, division winners, season totals, all that and more, plus some news and notes with the Phils and Major League Baseball. How you been, man? How's everything going in your world?
Good. I'll tell you what, I'm a lot better than I was the last time we recorded, because I think the last time we recorded was like 3 or 4 days after they lost Game 7. So it actually may have been the morning after. So
I'm not as
hungover. I'm not as sad. We're a lot better than we were last time we recorded. So
let me tell you, man, we just pulled up the odds. DraftKings just pumped out new odds for everything Major League Baseball 2024. Nice work by everyone there. And the first thing that went through my mind was, dude, I would have won so much money if the Phillies just went to the World Series.
I had a Phillies National League ticket. I had a Harper NLCS MVP ticket. I had a lot, man. I had a lot.
Yeah, that one stings.
Yeah,
that would have been
my first legal bet last year when I was officially turned 21 was the Phillies to win the World Series for like $3,000, and it was almost like another one of those things like the Jimmy Butler season. It felt like they just had to get in there, and once they got there, they were going to win it. Man.
All right. Well, here, let's make a deal. All right. That's it. Me and you and I, we look forward. That's it. There's no more last year. No more how it ended. We got to be straightforward, tunnel vision, 2024. All right. We got it off our chest. Let's go. Speaking of 2024, of course, open-ended. Catch us up. What's been happening with this team? The new signings. Of course, I saw arbitration. You're doing an unbelievable job on all things socials. And dude, I apologize. You lost your Twitter handle. So are you Arcaini Luke or are you Luke?
Yes,
Arcaini?
We are back. Yeah, we're good. Arcaini Luke. Yeah.
Arcaini Luke is okay.
Yeah. Not the 2-week temporary backup account when I was in Twitter jail.
Catch us up. All things Phillies off season. Who's back and what's next for the Fightins?
Yeah, so the Phillies agreed yesterday with 4 different players in arbitration. They agree with Jeff Hoffman. They agree with Ranger Suarez. They agree with Gregory Soto. And they agree with Edmundo Sosa. The highest price there was Ranger Suarez at just over $5 million. Mm-hmm. The only person they didn't agree with was Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm wanted $4 million, and the Phillies offered, I believe it was 3.4. So they're about a little over $500,000 off. This isn't something anybody needs to panic about necessarily. This happens all the time. Teams don't agree with their players, and realistically, they're not that far off, right? They're going to meet in the middle probably within the next few weeks, probably a little over $3.5 million there for Bohm. This is very common. This happened last year with Jose Alvarado, and they ended up agreeing to him on a multi-year deal. So this happens a lot in baseball. This isn't anything to worry about. Alec Bohm's not leaving. He's not getting traded. There's no reason to really panic there. Other than that, not necessarily much on the Phillies front. They haven't really made their big splash yet. I know we'll get into this in a few minutes. I do think a big splash is coming from them on the pitcher side of the diamond, but they haven't necessarily made many moves yet. We saw last night the Yankees got Marcus Stroman. Just a few minutes ago, the Giants got reliever Jordan Hicks, who I know the Phillies were linked to a pretty good amount. High velocity righties. If you find any righty that throws over 97, 98, the Phillies are probably linked to them right now. So Jordan Hicks is off the board. But I do think that the Phillies are going to be making a splash here very soon. Very, very soon.
Well, I think maybe in the back of my mind, I think a lot of Phillies fans want to see that, want to believe that. But again, if they don't make this splash, Luke, if they don't go in and get a name that tickles everybody and gets everybody excited, your thoughts on what the outlook looks like for this team that on DraftKings Sportsbook is hanging a 90.5 win total here as far as season numbers are concerned?
Yeah, so once again, right, it's pretty tough to sit here and say they would be a bad baseball team because one, that's not true. They're a very good baseball team. I know a lot of us are still probably mad about how that season ended and the way it ended. But they got there for a reason. And without a monumental collapse in really just one game, game 7 at home, right? Without a monumental collapse, we're looking at back-to-back World Series trips. So there's a reason that there's reasons for that. And top of the line is that they have a good roster built. They have a top 5 bullpen in baseball. They have a top 5 rotation in baseball, and they have a top 5 lineup in baseball. I know Victor Williams tapped in here on Twitter saying, how do they keep up pace with the Dodgers Braves, who right now are the top 2 basically heads of the table on DraftKings Sportsbook right now for the World Series. The Dodgers are plus 360 and the Braves are plus 500. Realistically, they need to keep their playoff consistency going early. We've seen the Phillies love to beat the Braves in the playoffs. And over the years, if you take away the COVID year, the Dodgers have been pretty big playoff chokers. Granted, the roster's gotten a lot better, right? With the addition of one of the greatest baseball players of all time, Shohei Ohtani, adding Yamamoto, and adding other guys as well. It's going to be hard to keep up necessarily in the regular season. I mean, there's a good chance these Dodgers get to 110 regular season wins this year. They're going to be a disgusting baseball team. But realistically, all that matters is those 14 games once you get into October. As long as you get in, we've seen in the past, we got the last wild card spot 2 years ago. And once you get in, all you need to do is win one game at a time. So I think if the Phillies are able to throw Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez out there every night with this lineup they already have, with the potential addition of another bat or two, I think they're in a really good spot, especially once they get back to the playoffs again.
Yeah, and again, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and there's no arguments with everything as far as they have going. It's just going to be insane. I think the pitching is still. We'll find out. Glasnow is a huge addition. Of course, Shohei is not throwing this year, so the following season is a whole different year with that. But they definitely improved a ton. So we'll put the Dodgers into a different discussion. And it's just how we have to go about it at this point.
Here, everyone else is a little slightly under them, right?
Well, we know how difficult it is. Again, one thing we learned about last year, and there were so many things written, was that to win the World Series specifically, especially with the addition of that new series being installed a couple seasons ago, as far as playoff baseball is concerned, it's possible. I think it was written as it's the most difficult sport to win a championship. So the Dodgers can be great on paper. They're going to be great on the field, but we'll see when we get to October. A long way until we get to that spot. Plus, health, we know how that works. And expectations. They raise things up. But let's focus on the Phillies. Let's focus on the division. And whether or not, look, just as you pointed out, this team needs to continue with the success that they've had these back-to-back years. And that's at the forefront. They were a brick away from back-to-back World Series appearances, which that's 08-09 territory. That's how difficult it is. That's how good you got to be to get there. So it's not a fluke. You said, let me back you up on this, because you said top 5 rotation.
Yeah,
hang on. You said top 5 lineup.
Yeah.
And then you said top 5, what else?
Bullpen. Statistically, they had close to a top 5 in all 3 of those things last year.
Okay. Now, did they improve?
May not exactly be 5. But
I think no one's going to disagree with you, but I would push back and say, and look, I'm here to learn. As far as the bullpen is concerned, that was the biggest flaw, of course, with what happened. Now we know the changes have taken place, especially at the closer position. take us through it. Why should we be confident in that bullpen for this upcoming year?
I mean, because they were really good statistically. And we can take away the realist, and it really comes down to game 5. It was really just game 5 and a little bit of game 6 was where the bullpen really struggled. Was it more leaning on one guy? Yes, but I'm still not in the boat of one guy loses you a series. That's just not how baseball works. I think the Phillies brought back basically everyone that they had in that bullpen last year, and they are very active in this reliever market. It was reported earlier they were in on Jordan Hicks. They obviously didn't get him. He did go to San Francisco, but they're going to be in on guys like Robert Stevenson. Hector Neris has been a big name to maybe come back here. He's been great with Houston the last 2 years. Once Houston finally realized that Hector Neris is a great reliever, you just can't throw him in the closer role. He's a great eighth inning guy even before that. So I think the Phillies are definitely in there. I've been saying for a while, and I do think it's true. I think Hector Neris does come back to Philadelphia. I think you would see that signing sooner rather than later. I think you could possibly that could be happening soon. I really think the Phillies would love to get Neris back here. I think he's the perfect, basically what they need right now in the bullpen. They need another hard throwing righty. And I think maybe the control is a little here and there with Hector, but we know what Hector brings. I mean, I believe he's the all-time bullpen strikeouts leader in Phillies history. He struck out a lot of guys when he was here. He lives and dies by whatever team he's on, right? He's one of the most emotional guys on the field. He's out there screaming after the third out. Hector's a guy that I really do think you could see back with the Phillies next season, and for the future. And I think there's kind of other guys that they're going around right now. Like I said, Robert Stevenson, he's been kind of a big name floated around. But I think the Phillies are also hitting the starting pitcher market. Right now, I think their top 3 is set, right? Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez. That's not going anywhere for a long time. Zach Wheeler, whether he may not get extended this offseason, he will become a free agent after this coming season, and I would be in utter shock if the Phillies did not bring him back for the rest of his career. I don't believe Zach Wheeler's going anywhere. He is here to stay for a while. But once you get past Ranger Suarez, it gets a little dicey. The Phillies like what they had last year in Christopher Sanchez. Kind of was a back half of the year guy for them that really stood out. I mean, he pitched innings in the playoffs. He was really good. He came in, did his job, and that's about it. And that's all you need from a guy who was basically a number 5 starter. I mean, if you take the stats, he was probably one of the best number 5s in all of baseball, based off of his ERA. So the situation right now is with Walker. What do they want to do with this Walker contract? Because I believe they owe him $55 million still for the next 3 years, and they're paying that to a guy who didn't pitch an inning in the playoffs last year. So what do they want to do there? Is there a way to trade him? Is there a way to get off of the contract? If the Phillies are presented with the opportunity to get off of the Taijuan Walker contract, they have to take that offer. You cannot have a guy on your team making $18 million and not pitch in the playoffs. That was basically just a burned roster spot last year, which was a guy where your bullpen arms were starting to fall apart. You could have had another bullpen arm in there. And instead you have a starter who was getting paid $18 million, not pitching at least 1/3 of an inning for you last year. So right now I think they're looking for starting pitching. I think Dave Dombrowski is trying to, behind the scenes, do anything he can to get off that Walker contract. I think that is where he knows this rotation can improve. And if you can throw out there's still guys out there. Obviously, Montgomery is one of the big names. Jordan Montgomery, who just won a World Series with the Rangers last season, and Blake Snell. Those are the 2 big lefties right now. I'm a little lenient on Snell. I have been the whole time. His walks really scare me. But if the Phillies offered him maybe a 1-2 year deal, something like that, I would be all in on it. So I mean, considering the fact that you could put out a rotation next year if you can get off of the Walker contract of Zach Wheeler, Blake Snell, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, top 4. That would be pretty gross and probably the best rotation in baseball, probably, if you added Blake Snell right now. So I think the Phillies are active. I think they're going to be making some splashes soon. I think they're kind of letting some things get out there to see. But once again, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Hector back here. And I think that could happen sooner rather than later.
Interesting. Yeah, one thing that comes to my mind from Blake Snell is the Mets. It's got to be the Mets. And what have they done this offseason? Have they done anything? Again, I'm a little foggy in the brain, but you look what the Yankees are doing, and that's definitely something that's going to send echoes through, the back pages and, of course, through the radio airwaves. Everyone's going to be losing their minds. And we know that Steve Cohen's got, a crazy amount of money, so he's not fearful to spend it. I could just see them going after either both of those guys you just mentioned, one or the other, or as we pointed out, getting both. But what is their current rotation right now?
Yeah, so obviously at the top they have Henga, who was unbelievable for them last year.
Yep.
But after that, it kind of falls downhill. They got Manea from the Padres, who has been he's been good, but he just gets raked on kind of like all year, basically. The Mets rotation right now is very shaky. Definitely probably the 4th best in the division right now, even with that Marlins rotation with Alcantara and Yuri Perez and Jesus Luzardo. I would say the Mets probably have the 4th best rotation in the NL East right now. They have Jose Quintana. They signed Luis Severino, but that's not a rotation that really stands out to me. That's a very middle of the pack after you get past your ace type of thing, which is not good once you get to the playoff time. Obviously, the Mets made a few moves. They got Harrison Bader from the Yankees, but not much. They've just kind of had a quiet offseason, which maybe leads you to think they have a big move coming. Maybe in that pitcher market. But I don't know. The Mets are kind of in this weird position right now. They kind of hinted last year with the whole Max Scherzer hinting at their like 1-year rebuild to come back in 2025. I don't really know what the Mets plan is right now. I don't think the Mets I don't think we have anything to worry about if we're talking about the Mets. I mean,
no,
this NL East is really going to be us and the Braves, and it's going to come down to us and the Braves. That's it. The Marlins are going to make a little run again. But at the same time, it also came out this morning that the Marlins are basically selling everybody other than Yuri Perez. So they apparently Luis Ariz is on the board for the right package, which back-to-back batting titles on the board is just absurd. I guess we broke the Marlins in the wild card round. I don't know, but they basically said this morning that there's a report that they're listening to nearly every player out there right now on their team. So unless they're going full tank mode again, which I don't really know why you would, because you actually kind of had something going last year. That was a team that really surprised both of us last year. I know when we started, I don't think we had the Marlins anywhere near the top of the NL East, and then we ended up having them first round of the playoffs. So I think the Marlins were in a fairly okay spot, and I don't really know what happened. I guess they just kind of want to blow everything up. I don't know.
Not a serious organization. That's what it comes down to.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother story. Yeah, that's
and Vic checking back in. He said 50-50 on Snell. How much better would he make the Phillies? And I think it goes to what you just said, where you add him to this rotation that already has Wheeler, Nola, and Suarez. Like, that's just a hell of a 1-4 punch. But God forbid something happens. Now you still have that great arm there. Love the fact he's a lefty, and he proved his worth. I mean, we know who he is, but he proved his worth really from last season. So if you can get him, not to say on cheap, because it really doesn't matter to me, but if you can get him no matter what, and, oh, by the way, keeping him away from the teams that possibly could use his services, that would help It's a huge deal. So
I'm
something to
I'm more in the boat of getting Snell on a max of like 3 years. I'm where I get worried about Snell is giving him like a 6-7 year contract and having him locked up till 2030 and his arm falling off by 2027. That's kind of where I'm at with Snell. Right now, he would make the rotation unstoppable, but Blake Snell pitching here in 5 years would definitely worry me. So right now, yes, he would make us a lot better, but maybe 5 years down the line, no, I don't think so.
All right, I got to write up here. One thing that we need to focus on from the Phillies' perspective this year is the fact that first base is going to be improved in a big way. Bryce Harper going to take over the role there. What happens, though, in the outfield? How does that play out in your mind? Of course, no question. You open it up to Bryce. He says he wants to play first. You do it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he was open to whatever the team wanted to do, and the team suggested he goes to first. Is that how you saw it? Is that how it played out? And the difference for who's going to take over in the outfield now? What are we looking at as far as numbers are concerned?
Yeah, so Harper will be the first baseman going forward. That's really no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If he wants to play first base, he's going to play first base, and I think the organization wants him at first base. I think they know that Harper playing first base makes his career longer. If you put him in the outfield, his arm kind of like Blake Snell. 5 years of Harper throwing bombs after a Tommy John surgery, his arm may start to fall off in about 4 or 5 years. So I think keeping him at first base is big, and I think having your face of your franchise playing corner infield rather than the outfield, I don't know. There's just this thing about it to me where I just love having Harper in the infield. I think it's cool that your star player is there. So I think it's nice for him. As far as the outfield, it's kind of a little weird right now, depending on what they do in the free agent market. I think right now the general consensus is if the Phillies sign a bat, it's going to be a corner outfielder. Whether that would be a guy like an Adam Duvall, that's kind of been a name that's been thrown out there that I would love on this team. But right now, I think with this roster, how it's constructed, I think you would start opening day. Marsh would be in left, Rojas would be in center, and Nick Castellanos would be in right. Your DH would be Schwarber, and other than that, everything else would be the same as last year. The Phillies really like Rojas. They obviously want to get his bat up to its full potential. But I know there was this big thing going around yesterday how there's just a lot of Rojas kind of backlash just because how he sort of hit in the playoffs. And while it wasn't good, the kid got called up straight from Double-A 3 months before the playoffs and faced basically like multiple different aces in the playoffs. He's only 23. Like I think I know we live in a city where we're ready to go now and everything needs to be perfect, but I think we need to give Rojas a little time. I think he's going to develop really well. His defense is already incredible. If he played a full season last year in the outfield, he would have broke StatCast's metrics in defensive runs saved. I'm not even joking. He would have broke any previous number by about double. They predicted him. So his defense is absolutely incredible. And we've gotten to a point in baseball where the center field position is not a hitter's position. It's so far from that now. You don't get many center fielders that hit over 300. A matter of fact, you don't get many that hit over 280. If you have a center fielder that can hit a 265, 270 with 10 to 15 homers and 35 to 40 stolen bases and play the defense that Rojas plays, I will take that every day of the week. And I think that's kind of what Rojas is going to give you right now. So right now, going into 2024 opening day, it's going to be Marsh, Rojas, Castellanos as it stands right now. Once again, things may change, and I do think something will change. I think a corner outfield bat's on the way soon. Do I know necessarily who that is? No. I've been very in on Adam Duvall. That's kind of been a name that's been thrown out there. There's been rumors for Cody Hellinger out there. There's still some names. Some names are going off the board. Hernandez went to the Dodgers. But I think there's still some names out there that the Phillies could go get if they wanted to.
All right. Wow, there's some money to be made on the Dodgers here on DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's go over some numbers as we close up shop. Episode 1, 2024. Luke and I on the Phillies at foxphlgambler.com.
They're plus 180 to win the National League.
Plus 170 for the best regular season record.
Ooh,
that's decent.
Yeah,
that's a decent number. Like you said, this team could easily win, 100 plus games. So we'll see, but I like that number there. Just as far as the futures for the Phillies are concerned, the division, let's start there. Plus 320. Of course, the Atlanta Braves are your favorite at plus or minus 220. Any shot that the Phillies beat the Braves for the division?
I mean, there's always a chance. I just think the Braves are really good. The Braves are just a very win heavy baseball team in the regular season. They just stack up a lot of wins. They have forever now. I would probably stay away from the Phillies NL East number. Although if another big name would come in, I would look at it. That number would go down. But if you believe a big name or two is on the way to Philly like I do, then I would maybe look at the price. But if you're standing at this Phillies roster right now and the Braves Phillies roster, then I wouldn't look at the Phillies number right now. No.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just, look, you got to find value elsewhere on the board. And 90.5. Your thoughts on the Phillies going over that team total number this year?
Yeah, I like that number. I'm going to take the over on that. I think the Phillies, with Harper at first, are going to get off to a much better start than they have in past years. They've been a very bad baseball team in April and May. We know that. It's brutal baseball. We do this cycle every year where they're 10 games under 500 in the third week of May, and we want to fire the coach. And then they win like 19 of 21 in June, and they're back. I think that's not really going to be the case this year. I think they're going to get off to a lot hotter start. This is the first time in a while that realistically we're getting a full season from Bryce Harper. He kind of started the last two seasons sort of on the bench a little bit or being hurt. So I think now getting Bryce out there is going to be big for them. And I mean, your leader, your best guy out there for all 162 is going to help your team a lot, specifically the first 2 months. So I do like that over wins total for the Phillies at 90.5. I would put them in probably about the 93 range, 92, 93. But yeah, I like the over there.
Excellent stuff. DraftKings has a ton to offer so far. Again, I'm sure they're going to be continuing to add every single day. They got player totals, player awards, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young up there, Garrett Cole, Kevin Gausman, Framber Valdez for the AL, National League, Spencer Strider, Zach Wheeler, 8-1, Logan Webb plus 950. That's for Cy Young. MVP. Give me a little Bryce Harper taste here.
Yeah, I am all over the Harper MVP train this year. Very much. I've been looking at the ticket for a while. Right now, I believe he's plus 1,000 on DraftKings.
That
leader
high.
Plus 1,000 right now. Right now, highest guy is Ronald Acuna plus 550. Then it's Mookie. Then it's Ohtani. Those guys are tied, Mookie and Ohtani. And then Harper is tied with Fernando Tatis at plus 1,000. I do like Harper there. As far as the American League, ooh, man, some of these numbers, I don't know. I would maybe look at Seager. I don't know if the Rangers necessarily are going to have their as good of a year as they had this year, but I think Seager will from just a player standpoint. I'm trying to just look at names down here. Any of these long shot odds down here.
Yeah.
Nothing really down the board. Leader right now is obviously Aaron Judge, then Juan Soto following right behind him. Pretty crazy to kind of forgot, honestly, that Juan Soto's a Yankee now. I was like, oh shit, that's probably why he's up there. So Juan Soto at plus 600, Yordan Alvarez at plus 800, Corey Seager at plus 1,000. And then Julio Rodriguez and Adley Rutschman tied at 13-1. I would maybe look at Adley. That's a fun one. He's awesome. He's so young. He's so awesome in Baltimore. Yeah. If you do, I know a lot of people are high on the Yankees, but the where are we at here? Division winner. The Orioles are plus 280 to win the AL East over the Yankees right now. If you do like the Orioles to go back to back, the Yankees did add some guys, obviously, just like Juan Soto. So I would. That's a ticket I may look at. Is the Orioles. But as far as the division goes, I think the favorites are pretty right. I don't see anything in the Central really. The Central, I guess the Cubs, even though they're not really getting better, they're just kind of staying where they are. The Dodgers are a minus 400 to win their division.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing really there. Maybe the Orioles. That would probably be my only underdog to win their division right now. But I think the favorites are pretty heavy right now as far as division goes.
All right. Well, look, we are here on episode 1. Luke and I on the Phillies, 2024. Nothing from last season. We're all looking forward to this year. So we got a long way to go. Next episode, we'll go ahead and hone in on these numbers. These numbers were just released on DraftKings Sportsbook, so we'll give you some of our plays, officially lock those in. Again, I always say this, if you like something, get on it now because chances are those numbers are going to move. They fluctuate often, especially now. Then they'll stall out. We'll get through February into March, and then they'll start moving again right before the season starts. But right here, right now, when these numbers just came out, they're fresh out the oven. Go ahead. If you like something, hop on it. On the next episode, we'll go a little bit more in detail as far as some player talk as far as the Phillies are concerned. We will also be going big picture on the league, who the next Baltimore Orioles team will be for this season, all that more. But looking forward to it, man. Major League Baseball is here. Oh, by the way, I do have a trip to Clearwater already booked for March. So we'll be there in March, ready to go. I'm excited to get after it. Luke, any final thoughts before we get out of here, sir?
No, I think we're good here. I'm ready for baseball. I believe it's 76 days till opening day. We're almost there. We're getting there.
Damn right. And make sure you're following Luke on all things socials, as he's been putting out some great tweets and posts until we get to the opening day here for Major League Baseball. Arcaini Luke, last name first, Arcaini Luke. And be sure to follow on Twitter as well. Luke and I Phils. That's our handle there for the station page. Excellent stuff, Luke, as always. We'll keep it moving here on a Friday. Next episode next week.
Yes, sir.